She wore a $20 dress to her husband's corporate gala. He told his friends she was the maid. But when the CEO of the company bowed to her, the laughter stopped instantly. This is the shocking story of Liam Sterling, a man who tried to destroy his poor wife to marry a wealthy heiress, only to discover that the woman he was discarding held a title that money can't buy. You think you know how a divorce ends? Not this one. This is the day Liam Sterling lost everything. The humid July air in Manhattan was nothing compared to the chill inside the apartment on West 82nd Street. Emily stood over the kitchen island, her hands red from scrubbing pots. She looked at the man sitting in the living room. Liam Sterling, the man she had put through business school, the man whose student loans she had paid off by working double shifts at a diner for 6 years. He was adjusting his silk tie, a tie that cost more than Emily's entire wardrobe. "We need to talk," Liam said, not looking up from his phone. Emily wiped her hands on her apron. "Dinner is almost ready, Liam. I made that roast you like." "I'm not eating." Liam stood up. He was handsome, in that sharp, predatory way that Wall Street rewards. He had recently been promoted to senior vice president at Vanguard Global, a firm that managed billions. "I'm leaving, Emily." Emily froze. "Leaving? Like, for a business trip?" "No." Liam sighed, as if explaining quantum physics to a toddler. He reached into his briefcase and slapped a thick manila envelope onto the granite counter. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "For good. I'm filing for divorce." The room went silent. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator. "Why?" Emily whispered, her voice trembling. Is it the stress? We can go to counseling. I know you've been working late with that new client, the Vance family." Liam laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound. "It's not stress, Emily. It's you. Look at you." He gestured vaguely at her worn-out jeans and the simple T-shirt she bought in a 3-pack. "I'm a VP now. I dine with senators. I pitch to billionaires. And then I come home to this." "I support you," Emily said, tears welling up. "I've supported you when you had nothing." "That's the problem," Liam sneered. "You remind me of when I was nothing. You're small, Emily. You have no ambition. You're content with coupons and subway rides. I need a partner who fits my life, someone who can walk into a room and command attention. Someone like Jessica." The name hung in the air. Jessica. Emily knew the name. Jessica Vance, the daughter of the oil tycoon Marcus Vance, the client Liam had been working late with for months. Jessica was 24, loud and dripped in diamonds. "You're leaving me for a client?" Emily asked, her voice hardening slightly. "I'm leaving you for my future," Liam corrected. "Jessica understands power. She has connections. You have... what? A shift at the library? Look, I'm being generous. I'll let you keep the old Honda. But I need you out of the apartment by Friday. Jessica is moving in." "This is my home," Emily said. "It's in my name," Liam shot back. "Check the papers. I bought it last year, after the promotion. You just signed as a witness, remember? You really should read things before you sign them, Emily. You're too naive for this world." He checked his Rolex. "I'm meeting Jessica at Le Bernardin. Don't wait up. Have your things packed. And don't make a scene, Emily. You can't afford a lawyer who can beat mine." He walked out the door without looking back. Emily stood alone in the silence. She looked at the divorce papers. Then she looked at a small, silver locket she wore around her neck, the only piece of jewelry she ever wore. She opened the locket. Inside was a tiny, faded crest, a lion and a shield. "Naive," she whispered to the empty room. She picked up her phone. She didn't call a lawyer. She dialed an international number. "Hello?" A crisp, accented voice answered on the second ring. Royal Household, Chief of Staff speaking. Arthur? Emily said, her voice shifting from the broken housewife to something far colder. It's me. Prepare the jet, and tell Grandfather I'm finally accepting the invitation to the Vanguard Gala. Friday came with a vengeance. Emily hadn't fought him. She had packed her meagre belongings into 3 cardboard boxes. When Liam returned to the apartment that afternoon, he wasn't alone. Jessica Vance was with him. Jessica was stunning in a terrifying way. She wore a red dress that screamed money and heels that clicked aggressively on the hardwood floors. She looked at Emily like one might look at a stain on a rug. "Oh, you're still here," Jessica said, wrinkling her nose. "Liam, babe, I thought you said the help would be gone by noon." Liam chuckled, wrapping an arm around Jessica's waist. "She's just slow, Jess. You know how she is." Emily taped up the last box. She stood up and faced them. "I'm leaving, Liam, but I want you to remember something." "Save the speech," Liam rolled his eyes. "Go find a small apartment in Queens. Live your small life." Jessica walked over to the kitchen counter, picking up a ceramic mug Emily had hand-painted years ago. "Ugh, this is tacky." She dropped it. It shattered on the floor. "Oops. Well, we're renovating anyway. I need everything marble." Emily looked at the shards of pottery. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked at Liam. "You think you know who I am," Emily said softly, "but you never asked. In 7 years, you never asked about my family in Europe. You just assumed I was poor because I didn't spend money." "Because you have no money," Liam shouted, losing his patience. "Your parents are farmers. You told me that." "I told you they worked the land," Emily corrected. "I never said they were farmers." "Get out," Liam pointed to the door. "And don't come near the Vanguard Gala next week. It's a black tie event for the elite. Security has your picture. If you try to crash it to beg for alimony, they'll throw you in the street." Emily picked up her box. "Enjoy the apartment, Liam. I hope it's worth it." She walked out into the hallway. As the elevator doors closed, she heard Jessica laughing. "She's pathetic, Liam. God, how did you survive 7 years with that mouse?" "It's over now, babe." Liam's voice faded. "Now, let's talk about the merger. Your dad is coming to the gala, right?" Emily stepped out of the building. It was raining. But instead of walking to her old Honda, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows pulled up to the curb. A man in a dark suit stepped out, holding an umbrella. He wasn't a taxi driver. He was security. "Your Highness," the man said, bowing his head slightly as he opened the door. "No titles yet, Thomas," Emily said, sliding into the leather interior. "Not until the gala. We have booked the penthouse suite at the plaza under the alias, as requested," Thomas said, closing the door. "And the dress has arrived from Paris." Emily looked out the window as the car pulled away, watching the apartment building disappear in the rain. Liam thought he had discarded a piece of trash. He had no idea he had just declared war on the sole heir to the Duchy of Valoria. Back in the apartment, Liam was pouring champagne. His phone buzzed. It was a text from his boss, the CEO of Vanguard Global, Mr. Sterling. No relation, but Liam liked to pretend there was. Text: "Big night next week, Liam. The royal delegation from Europe is attending. We need to impress them to secure the Euro trade deal. I'm counting on you and your new fiancé to charm them. Don't mess this up." "Too easy," Liam smirked, showing the text to Jessica. "We're going to run this city." Little did he know, the royal delegation wasn't coming to sign a deal. They were coming to collect their princess. The week leading up to the Vanguard Gala was a blur of excess for Liam. With Emily gone, he felt a weight lift off his shoulders, A weight he hadn't realized was actually his own conscience dying. He moved Jessica into the apartment immediately. Within 48 hours, she had hired a team of contractors to rip out the dull oak cabinets Emily had restored by hand. Jessica wanted everything gold and white. She called it modern chic. But to anyone with taste, it looked like a casino lobby. On Wednesday morning, Liam sat in his corner office overlooking Central Park. He was reviewing the dossier for the royal delegation. "Big stakes, Liam," his boss, CEO Robert Sterling, said, pacing the room. Robert was a man who measured people by their net worth. He liked Liam because Liam was hungry. The Duchy of Valoria isn't just a tourist trap in Europe. They control the sovereign wealth fund that holds 40% of the rare earth mineral rights we need for the tech merger. If we don't sign them on Saturday, Vanguard stock drops 20 points. Liam flipped through the file. "Who's the contact? The Duke?" "The Grand Duke is elderly," Robert said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "He sent a proxy. The file says the proxy has absolute authority. They're arriving via private jet today. We don't have a name yet. Security protocols are high level. But we know one thing. They value tradition, loyalty, and class. That's why I picked you, Liam. You've got that family man image." Liam stiffened slightly. "Actually, Robert, about that. Emily and I, we're separated. I'll be bringing Jessica Vance." Robert frowned. "Vance? The oil heiress? That's a bit flashy, isn't it? The Valorians are old money. Quiet money." "Jessica is perfect," Liam insisted, smoothing his tie. "She speaks the language of wealth. Emily was... well, she would have worn a polyester dress and embarrassed the firm. Jessica was born for this." Robert shrugged. "It's your funeral if you blow it. Just make sure Jessica keeps the drinking to a minimum. This proxy holds our future in their hands." While Liam was busy trying to curate the perfect image of success, across town at the Plaza Hotel, the reality of power was unfolding in the presidential suite. Emily sat on a velvet sofa, a team of stylists hovering around her. But she wasn't looking at clothes. She was reading a legal document on an iPad. "The assets have been frozen, Your Highness," Arthur, the royal chief of staff, said quietly. He was an older man with silver hair and a spine of steel. He had served Emily's grandfather for 40 years. "We've acquired the majority voting rights in Vanguard Global through shell companies this morning. As of 9 a.m., you are technically Mr. Sterling's boss's boss." Emily didn't smile. "Does Liam know?" "No one knows," Arthur said. "Wall Street thinks it's a blind trust from Singapore. They won't know until you introduce yourself at the gala." Emily stood up and walked to the window. She looked down at the busy streets of Manhattan. For 7 years, she had walked those streets carrying groceries, counting pennies to pay for Liam's MBA textbooks. She had hidden her identity because she wanted to be loved for herself, not her title. She wanted to know if a man could love Emily the person, not Emily the Duchess. She had her answer. "He called me small," Emily said softly. "He said I had no ambition." "He mistook humility for weakness," Arthur noted. "A common mistake of the nouveau riche." "Is the dress ready?" Emily asked. Arthur snapped his fingers. A door opened, and 2 assistants wheeled in a garment bag. They unzipped it. It wasn't just a dress. It was a weapon. It was a deep, midnight blue silk, custom-made by the House of Dior. It was structured to perfection, with a neckline that was elegant, yet commanding. But the centerpiece wasn't the fabric. Arthur opened a heavy velvet box on the table. Inside lay the Valorian star, a diamond and sapphire necklace that hadn't been seen in public since Emily's grandmother wore it to her coronation in 1968. It was worth more than the entire building Liam lived in. "Grandfather sent it," Arthur said. He said if you are going to end a marriage, you should do it wearing the family colors. Emily touched the cold gems. Liam wanted a woman who could command a room, she whispered. I'm going to give him exactly what he asked for. Saturday night arrived with the flash of paparazzi bulbs. The Vanguard Global Gala was held at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, specifically in the Temple of Dendor room. It was the event of the season. Limousines snaked down Fifth Avenue. The air smelled of expensive perfume and desperation. Liam stepped out of a rented Rolls-Royce, extending a hand to Jessica. She emerged wearing a bright gold sequined dress that was cut too low in the front and too high in the thigh. It was expensive, certainly, but it lacked subtlety. She looked like a trophy. "Smile, babe," Liam whispered, gripping her arm a little too tightly. "There are photographers." "I'm always smiling," Jessica snapped, checking her reflection in the car window. "Do you see my dad? He said he'd be by the bar." They walked up the grand stairs. Liam felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it. He was a senior VP. He had the hot girlfriend. He was about to close the biggest deal in the firm's history. He scanned the crowd, looking for the royal proxy. Inside, the room was a sea of tuxedos and gowns. Robert Sterling, the CEO, rushed over to them. He looked pale. "Liam, you're late," Robert hissed. "Fashionably late," Liam grinned. "Where are the Valorians?" "They haven't entered yet," Robert said, his eyes darting around nervously. "But security says their motorcade just pulled up. Listen, the protocol has changed. We are not approaching them. We wait for them to approach us. Do not speak unless spoken to. And for God's sake, keep Jessica quiet." "Excuse me," Jessica bristled. "My father owns half of Texas." "And these people own half of Europe's debt," Robert snapped. "Shut up." Suddenly, the room went quiet. The chatter died down instantly, rippling from the entrance all the way to the back of the hall. It was the kind of silence that only happens when true power enters a room. The heavy doors at the top of the stairs swung open. A team of 6 security guards in earpieces walked in first, forming a phalanx. Behind them walked Arthur, looking distinguished in a tuxedo with a sash of merit across his chest. And then she stepped in. Emily. But it wasn't the Emily Liam knew. This woman stood 6 feet tall in heels, her posture perfect, her chin held high. The midnight blue dress flowed around her like liquid water. The Valorian star diamonds around her neck caught the museum lights, sending fractals of blue and white fire across the room. She wore long silk gloves and a small, diamond-encrusted tiara resting in her dark hair. She didn't look at the floor. She looked straight ahead, with a gaze that could freeze water. The crowd gasped. Whispers broke out immediately. "Is that? Look at those diamonds." "That's the Valorian crest." Liam stood frozen, his champagne glass halfway to his mouth. He blinked. He blinked again. His brain couldn't process the image. It looked like Emily. It had Emily's face. But Emily was a nobody. Emily was currently crying in a cheap apartment in Queens. This woman was a goddess. "Who is that?" Jessica asked, her voice shrill in the quiet room. "Why is everyone staring at her? Her dress isn't even that revealing." "That's," Liam stuttered. "That looks like my ex-wife." Jessica let out a loud, cackling laugh. "Your maid? Liam, you need glasses. That woman is wearing $10 million around her neck. Your ex-wife coupons for tuna." But Liam couldn't look away. The woman began to descend the stairs, flanked by security. As she walked, the crowd naturally parted, creating a wide path. People, senators, billionaires, celebrities, were bowing their heads slightly as she passed. Robert Sterling, the CEO, turned white. "Oh my God," he whispered. "That's Her Royal Highness, Princess Emily of Valoria, the Grand Duke's granddaughter. Liam felt the blood drain from his face. Princess! She's the proxy, Robert realized, horror dawning on him. She's the one we have to pitch to. Emily reached the bottom of the stairs. She didn't head for the VIP section. She walked straight toward the Vanguard executive team. Straight toward Liam. Her face was unreadable. She stopped 5 feet away from him. The silence in the room was deafening. Every eye was on them. Liam's heart hammered against his ribs. It was her. Up close, there was no denying it. The same eyes he had looked into for 7 years. The same hands he had refused to hold in public. "Hello, Liam," Emily said. Her voice was calm, amplified by the acoustics of the room. It wasn't the meek voice of the housewife he bullied. It was the voice of a ruler. "Emily?" Liam choked out. "What? What are you doing here? You can't be here. Security." He looked around for a guard, panic setting in. "This woman is crashing the party. She's my ex-wife. Get her out." Jessica stepped forward, emboldened by Liam's panic. "Yeah, get out. You think you can just rent a costume and crash a private gala? Who did you sleep with to get that necklace?" The gasp from the crowd was audible. Arthur stepped forward, his face red with fury. "You will address Her Royal Highness with respect." "Highness?" Jessica laughed, looking around for support. "She's a waitress. She cleaned my husband's toilet last week." Emily raised a hand, silencing Arthur. She looked at Jessica with a mixture of pity and amusement. Then she turned her gaze to Liam. "I didn't crash the party, Liam," Emily said, her voice cutting through the air. "I own the party." Liam felt like the floor was tilting. "You own it? What are you talking about? You're crazy. You're having a breakdown." "Mr. Sterling," Emily said, looking past Liam to the CEO, Robert. Robert Sterling practically tripped over his own feet to step forward. He bowed low, a deep, terrified bow. "Your Highness, we are honored. We had no idea." "Obviously," Emily said coldly. "If you had done your due diligence, you would know that the Valorian Sovereign Fund acquired a controlling interest in Vanguard Global this morning." She gestured to the room. "I am not just the client, Liam. As of today, I am the chairwoman of the board." Liam's knees actually buckled. He grabbed Jessica's shoulder to steady himself. No, that's impossible. You're poor. I paid your student loans. You worked at a diner." "I worked at a diner because I refused to touch my trust fund until I found a partner who loved me for me," Emily said, her voice echoing in the silent hall. "I paid my own way to see if you were a man of character. I wanted to build a life with you from the ground up." She took a slow step closer to him. The smell of her perfume, white rose and sandalwood, hit him. It was the same scent she always wore, but now it smelled like vengeance. "I gave you 7 years of loyalty," she continued. "I cooked your meals. I ironed your shirts. I supported you when you were a junior analyst making nothing. And the moment you got a taste of success, you threw me away like garbage because you thought I didn't fit your new life." She looked him up and down, her eyes landing on his expensive tie. "You wanted a woman with connections, a woman who commands a room, a woman with a title." She spread her arms slightly. "Well, here I am." The crowd began to murmur. Phones were out. Everyone was recording. This was going to be viral in minutes. "Emily, wait," Liam stammered. His brain was spinning, trying to find an angle, a lie, a way out. He put on his best sales smile, the one he used to charm clients. It looked grotesque now. "Baby, listen. This is a misunderstanding. I was stressed. The divorce. I didn't mean it. I was just testing you. to see if you'd fight for us." Jessica's jaw dropped. "Liam, what the hell?" Liam ignored her. He took a step toward Emily, reaching for her hand. "I love you, Elle. You know that. We can fix this. We're a power couple now. Imagine what we can do. King and Queen of New York." Emily didn't move away. She let him reach for her hand. But just before he touched her, Arthur intercepted, gripping Liam's wrist with a grip that was surprisingly painful. "Do not touch Her Highness," Arthur growled. Emily looked at Liam with pure disgust. "You aren't a king, Liam. You're a climbing vine. You wrap yourself around people and suck them dry until you're tall enough to find the next branch. But you forgot one thing about vines." "What?" Liam whispered, sweating profusely. "They die when you cut the roots." Emily turned to Robert Sterling. "Mr. Sterling, as the new chairwoman, I have my first order of business." "Anything, Your Highness," Robert said, shaking. "This man," she pointed to Liam, represented himself as a man of integrity. Clearly that was a lie. He is a liability to this company. He lacks judgment, he lacks morals, and he lacks the class required to represent Vanguard. "I agree completely," Robert said immediately. He turned to Liam. "Liam, you're fired. Effective immediately. Hand over your badge and phone." "You can't do that," Liam screamed. "I'm the VP. I brought in the Vance account." "Actually," Jessica interrupted. She stepped away from Liam, looking at the sinking ship. "My daddy doesn't do business with unemployed losers. Consider the account pulled." Liam looked at Jessica, betrayed. "Jess?" "Don't Jess me," she scoffed. "You lied to me too. You said she was a nobody. I'm not getting dragged into this mess." She turned to Emily. "Your Highness, I had no idea. He told me you were—" "I know what he told you," Emily said coolly. "But you were happy to mock a woman you thought was poor. You broke my pottery. You laughed at my life. You are just as small as he is, Jessica. You just have better shoes." Emily snapped her fingers. 2 large security guards stepped forward. "Escort Mr. Sterling out," Emily commanded, "and ensure he doesn't take the company car. He can take the subway. I hear it's good for building character." "Emily, please," Liam shouted as the guards grabbed his arms. He was being dragged backward, his heels skidding on the marble floor. "Emily, I'm sorry. I love you. We can work this out." Emily didn't look back. She turned to the stunned crowd of New York's elite. She raised her champagne glass. "I apologize for the disturbance," she said with a gracious smile. "Now please, enjoy the evening. The drinks are on me." The room erupted in applause. As Liam was thrown out the front doors of the museum into the rainy New York night, he looked up at the warm, golden glow of the windows. He realized then that he had held a winning lottery ticket in his pocket for 7 years, and he had thrown it in the trash for a shiny penny. He checked his pocket for his phone to call an Uber. It wasn't there. Robert had taken it. He stood in the rain, in his $5,000 tuxedo, and began to walk toward the subway. But the story wasn't over. Emily had won the battle, but Liam wasn't the type to stay down. And Jessica Vance wasn't used to being humiliated. As Emily celebrated inside, a different kind of plot was hatching in the darkness of a limousine parked just down the street. Liam walked 3 blocks in the pouring rain before his soaked tuxedo shoes gave him blisters. He was shivering, furious, and his mind was racing like a trapped rat. He had gone from the peak of Everest to the bottom of the Marianas Trench in less than an hour. He hated Emily. He hated her for lying to him, for embarrassing him, for having the audacity to be more powerful than he was. But more than anything, he needed a way back in. He needed leverage. A long, silver Bentley pulled up alongside him, splashing puddle water onto his already ruined trousers. The back window rolled down an inch. "Get in," a gravelly voice commanded. Liam didn't hesitate. He opened the door and slid onto the cream leather seats. The car was warm and smelled of expensive cigars and old leather. Sitting across from him was Marcus Vance. Jessica's father was a terrifying man. He was 70 years old, built like a linebacker, with eyes that looked like pieces of flint. He had made his fortune in Texas oil by crushing his competition, and he ran his family the same way. Jessica was sitting next to him, looking sullen and refusing to make eye contact with Liam. "Mr. Vance," Liam shivered, trying to regain some composure. "Thank you. Look, what happened back there was a disaster," Vance cut him off. His voice was low, a rumble of thunder before a strike. "You humiliated my daughter. You brought my name into a public circus. I should throw you out of this moving car." "It was Emily," Liam protested, his voice rising in desperation. "She set me up. She lied for 7 years, Marcus. She's a fraud. She's a princess," Vance corrected him coldly. "And now she owns the company that manages 20% of my portfolio. You are an unemployed nobody who couldn't spot a diamond when it was sleeping in his own bed." "I can fix this." Liam leaned forward, his eyes manic. "I know her. I know her weaknesses. She's soft, Marcus. She plays the tough role now, but inside she's still the mouse who used to clip coupons. We can break her." Vance stared at him for a long, uncomfortable moment. He despised weakness, and Liam was dripping with it right now. But Vance also despised losing money, and Emily's sudden takeover had spooked the markets. He didn't like wild cards controlling his assets. "Jessica says you filed for divorce," Vance said. "Yes. Last week." "On what grounds?" "Irreconcilable differences. The usual." Liam waved his hand dismissively. Vance leaned back, tenting his thick fingers. A cruel smile slowly spread across his face. "You idiot. You filed for divorce against a woman you thought had nothing. So you probably offered her a pittance just to make her go away, right?" Liam nodded slowly, not seeing the trap. "I let her keep the old car. I wanted a clean break." Vance laughed. It was a dry, dusty sound. "You filed a legal document stating she had no assets to divide, but she did. She had billions, hidden billions." Vance turned to the man sitting in the front passenger seat, a silent man in a sharp suit who had been typing on a laptop. "Jenkins, what's the New York state law on hiding assets during a marriage?" Jenkins didn't turn around. "It's considered fraud upon the court, Mr. Vance. If proven, the judge can invalidate the entire divorce agreement. In punitive cases, they can award 100% of the hidden assets to the aggrieved spouse." Liam's eyes widened. The realization hit him like a physical blow. "Wait," Liam breathed. "You mean—" "I mean," Vance sneered, "that if we play this right, you aren't the poor ex-husband. You're the victim of an international con artist. If she hid her royal status and her fortune to trick you into a cheap divorce, you could be entitled to half of everything, half of her trust, half of Vanguard Global." The greed washed over Liam, warming him faster than the car's heater. $500 million. Maybe more. He wouldn't just be back on top, he'd be untouchable. "We need proof," Vance said sharply, snapping Liam out of his fantasy. "We need to prove she actively deceived you, not just that you were too stupid to ask. We need emails, texts, documents where she claimed poverty." "I have them," Liam said, his mind racing back through 7 years. The texts where she said we couldn't afford vacation, the emails about budgeting for groceries. I have all of it on my old laptop in the apartment. Vance looked at Jessica. "You still have the keys to his place?" Jessica pulled a set of keys from her designer purse, dangling them disdainfully. Yeah, I was going to have the locks changed tomorrow. Good, Vance said. Jenkins, call the legal team. Wake them up. I want a subpoena ready by 9 a.m. Monday. We're suing Her Royal Highness for marital fraud. We're going to freeze her assets before she can even sit in the chairman's chair. He turned back to Liam. You're my dog in this fight, Sterling. I'm backing you. But don't mistake this for kindness. If you screw this up, I won't just fire you. I will bury you so deep in lawsuits you'll need a shovel to find hell. Liam nodded eagerly. He felt a surge of dark power. Emily thought she had won. She had just awakened the real beasts of the concrete jungle. He wasn't just fighting for his job anymore. He was fighting for half a kingdom. The conference room at Vance, Reed and Cromwell, was on the 50th floor, wrapped in glass, offering a panoramic view of the city Emily now practically owned. It was Tuesday morning. The air in the room was frigid, heavily scented with expensive coffee and aggressive legal cologne. On one side of the 20-foot mahogany table sat Liam, flanked by Marcus Vance, and 4 of the most expensive litigators in the country. Liam wore a new suit Vance had bought him. He looked smug, revitalized by the promise of imminent victory. On the other side sat Emily. She was alone, save for Arthur, who sat quietly beside her, with a slim leather portfolio on the table. She wore a simple cream-colored business suit, no jewelry except the silver locket. She looked calm, almost bored. The lead lawyer for Vance, a man named Sterling, again, no relation, but the irony wasn't lost on anyone, slid a thick stack of papers across the table. Your Highness, the lawyer began, emphasizing the title with sardonic weight. We have filed an emergency injunction this morning. We have clear evidence, hundreds of pages of texts and emails, proving that for 7 years you systematically defrauded Mr. Sterling by misrepresenting your financial status. Liam leaned forward, unable to help himself. You played the poor little match girl, Emily. You made me pay for everything while you were sitting on a gold mine. The judge isn't going to like that. New York is an equitable distribution state. I want my half. Emily didn't look at the papers. She just looked at Liam. You want half of the Duchy of Valoria? It's a sovereign nation, Liam. You can't split a country in divorce court. We are targeting your personal holdings, Vance growled. The trust funds, the Vanguard shares. We know they are held in your name. And we are prepared to offer a settlement, the lawyer interjected smoother. Mr. Sterling will drop the fraud charges and agree to a quiet divorce in exchange for a lump sum payment of $50 million and the reinstatement of his position at Vanguard. Emily laughed. It was a genuine laugh, bright and amused. 50 million? And his job back? Liam, you really are a dreamer. It's better than losing half of everything in court, Liam snapped. You defrauded me. Emily turned to Arthur and nodded slightly. Arthur opened the slim leather portfolio. He removed a single, aged piece of paper. It looked deceptively simple compared to the mountains of documents on Vance's side. Do you know what the most important lesson of finance is, Liam? Emily asked quietly. Don't spend what you don't have, Liam sneered. No, Emily said. Read the fine print. Arthur slid the single paper across the table to Liam. Liam looked down at it. It was a document from 5 years ago. He recognized his own sloppy signature at the bottom. What is this? Liam frowned. This is the paperwork from when you consolidated my student loans. You said you found a better interest rate through some European bank. I did, Emily said. The Valorian Royal Bank does offer excellent rates to family members. I remember this, Liam said, dismissive. I signed it on a Tuesday night before I went out with the guys. So what? Did you read it? Emily asked. Nobody reads loan documents, Emily. It's boilerplate. Arthur, Emily said, please read Article 4, subsection B, which Mr. Sterling initialed right there. Arthur adjusted his glasses and read in a clear, monotone voice. The undersigned borrower acknowledges that, by accepting these funds, drawn from the royal treasury of Valoria, they are entering into a binding agreement under the Valorian Royal Marriage Act of 1712. Under this act, any spouse marrying into the royal line who is not of noble blood hereby waives all claims, present and future, to any royal assets, titles or estates in the event of divorce, regardless of the jurisdiction in which the divorce is filed. The room went dead silent. Liam stared at the paper. The words swam before his eyes. Wait, Liam's lawyer grabbed the paper. This is archaic. A 1712 treaty? This won't hold up in a US court. Look at the very bottom, Emily pointed. Arthur read again. Furthermore, as per the International Sovereign Assets Treaty, signed by the United States in 1954, the United States courts agree to uphold the marital property laws of sovereign nations regarding their acting heads of state or their direct heirs. Emily leaned forward, her voice razor-sharp. You didn't just sign a loan agreement, Liam. You signed a post-nuptial agreement bound by international treaty. I was protecting my family's legacy from the very beginning, just in case you turned out to be exactly who you are. She stood up. You wanted to be treated like a big shot, Liam. You wanted to play in the major leagues. Well, welcome to the majors. You don't get 50 million. You don't get your job back. And because you attempted to blackmail a foreign head of state, which is what I am now, I am submitting this transcript to the district attorney. Vance looked at the document. He looked at his expensive lawyers who were all pale and silent. He knew when he was beat. The oil tycoon stood up, buttoning his jacket. Marcus? Liam looked up at him, terrified. Marcus, do something. Say something. Marcus Vance looked down at Liam with pure contempt. You signed it without reading it, Vance spat. You amateur! Vance walked out of the room, his lawyers trailing behind him like whipped dogs. Jessica didn't even look back. Liam was left alone at the giant mahogany table. Just him and the piece of paper that proved he had thrown away a kingdom because he couldn't be bothered to read the fine print. Emily walked to the door. She paused, looking back at the man she had once loved. You were right about one thing, Liam, she said softly. I was pretending for 7 years. I was pretending you were a good man. I'm glad I can finally stop pretending. She closed the door, leaving Liam Sterling exactly where he deserved to be, alone with nothing but his own empty ambition. The elevator ride down from the law offices of Vance, Reed and Cromwell took 45 seconds. For Liam, it felt like 45 years. When the doors opened to the lobby, he expected to just walk out into the anonymity of the city. He was wrong. The leak had been instantaneous. Emily hadn't just submitted the transcript to the district attorney. The story had somehow found its way to TMZ and the New York Post within the hour. As Liam stepped onto the sidewalk, a wall of flashbulbs blinded him. Mr. Sterling, is it true you tried to sue the Princess of Valoria? Liam, did you really not know she was royalty? How does it feel to lose $1 billion fortune because you didn't read the fine print? He pushed through the microphone booms, covering his face with his suit jacket, a disgraced man running from his own greed. By the time he reached his apartment, his face was trending on Twitter under the hashtag #ThePauperPrince. But the worst was yet to come. He fumbled with his keys at the door of the luxury penthouse, only to find the lock didn't turn. The door swung open from the inside. Jessica was there. But she wasn't crying. She wasn't pacing. She was directing 3 movers who were hauling his Italian leather sofa out the door. "Jess?" Liam asked, breathless. "What are you doing?" Jessica paused, holding a glass of wine. She looked him up and down with a cold, detached amusement. "Oh, you made it back. I was hoping to be gone before you arrived. It avoids the stickiness." "Gone?" Liam stepped over a box of his own clothes that had been carelessly dumped on the floor. "Babe, listen. It was a bad meeting, but I can fix this. I know a guy at Hedge Fund Capital. I can get a new job. We can sue Vance for—" Jessica laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. "Sue my father." "You really are delusional, Liam. My dad just called. He cut off your corporate credit card 5 minutes ago. And this apartment, it's leased under the company, which means you're trespassing." She walked over to him, not to hug him, but to pluck the silk handkerchief from his breast pocket. She used it to wipe a smudge of lipstick from her teeth, then dropped it on the floor. "I'm leaving you, Liam, obviously." "Because I lost the money," Liam accused, his voice trembling with rage. "You're that shallow?" "It's not just the money," Jessica said, her eyes narrowing. "It's the embarrassment. Do you know what my friends are sending me? Memes of you. You're a joke, Liam. You're the man who had a winning lottery ticket and used it to blow his nose. I can't be seen with a man the world thinks is an idiot." She snapped her fingers at the movers. "Leave his cheap suits. Take everything else." An hour later, Liam was sitting on the floor of an empty apartment, surrounded by nothing but silence and the echo of his own failure. The professional fallout was swift and brutal. The next morning, Liam tried to enter Vanguard Global to salvage his contacts list. Security didn't even let him past the turnstiles. 2 guards, men Liam had ignored every morning for 3 years, marched him to the curb. One of them handed him a cardboard box containing his personal effects, a stapler, a stress ball, and a cracked picture frame. "Mr. Sterling," the guard said, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. "We've been instructed to inform you that if you return to the premises, you will be arrested for harassment." Liam went to a coffee shop to use the Wi-Fi. He sent emails to 20 headhunters. By noon, he had 5 replies. They were identical. "Due to recent public allegations involving fraud and high-profile litigation, we cannot represent you at this time." He called his best friend from business school, a guy he had partied with in the Hamptons just last month. "Look, Liam," the friend whispered into the phone. "You're radioactive, man. Emily isn't just a princess. She's the chairwoman now. She controls the mineral rights for half the tech sector. If I hire you, she pulls her contracts. No one is going to touch you. You're done in this town." The line went dead. Within 3 weeks, the money ran out. His severance package had been blocked, pending an internal investigation into his expense accounts. He sold the Patek Philippe watch. It paid for 2 months of rent in a basement studio apartment in New Jersey, next to a loud train track. He sold his designer suits to a consignment shop for pennies on the dollar. He was no longer Liam Sterling, the rising star of Wall Street. He was just a guy in a stained t-shirt eating instant noodles, watching the woman he discarded conquer the world. And conquer it she did. Emily didn't just take over Vanguard Global, she revolutionized it. She held a press conference in the main atrium, wearing a suit that cost more than Liam's old car, yet looking more approachable than he ever had. "For too long," Emily told the assembled press, her voice steady and warm, "this firm has valued profit over people. We have ignored the stories of the families we serve. That ends today." She announced a new scholarship fund for underprivileged students, named after the diner where she had worked as a waitress. She fired the executives who had covered for Liam's bullying. She was fierce, fair, and beloved. 6 months later, on a freezing November evening, Emily left the Vanguard Tower. The city was grey and miserable, sleet falling sideways. As she moved toward her waiting limousine, her bodyguard, Thomas, held up a hand. "Ma'am, there's a man near the service entrance. He's been waiting for 3 hours. I told him to leave, but he says he knows you." Emily looked through the gloom. Huddled under a leaking awning, shivering violently, was a figure she barely recognized. Liam looked 10 years older. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollowed out by sleepless nights. He wore a cheap, thin windbreaker that was soaked through. He wasn't wearing Italian leather shoes anymore. He was wearing worn-out sneakers. Emily signaled Thomas to stand down. She walked over, stopping 5 feet away. The expensive heels she wore were pristine. His sneakers were soaked in a puddle. The contrast was a painting of karmic justice. "Hello, Liam," she said. He looked up, startled. He tried to straighten his jacket, a reflex from a life he no longer lived. "Emily, Your Highness." His voice was raspy. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly. "I have nowhere else to go," Liam admitted, the fight completely gone from him. "I applied for a job at a bank in Ohio. They laughed at me. I tried to get a job selling cars. The manager recognized me from the memes. I can't pay my heating bill, Emily. I'm cold." He looked at her, tears mixing with the rain on his face. "You won, okay? You destroyed me. Is it enough? Can you make it stop? Just make one call. Tell them I'm not a monster. Please." Emily looked at the man who had once told her she wasn't ambitious enough for him. She felt a flicker of pity, but she smothered it with wisdom. Giving him a handout would not help him. He had been given everything his whole life, and he had learned nothing. "I didn't destroy you, Liam," she said firmly. "You destroyed yourself. You built a house on a foundation of arrogance, and you were surprised when it collapsed." "I know," he whispered, hanging his head. "I know." Emily reached into her designer handbag. She didn't pull out a checkbook. She didn't pull out a phone to call a CEO. She pulled out a crumpled business card. "My family supports a foundation," she said, extending the card. "We run a logistics warehouse for disaster relief supplies. It's in Newark. It's hard work. You'll be lifting crates, sorting inventory, and sweating for 12 hours a day. The pay is minimum wage." Liam looked at the card. It wasn't a corner office. It was manual labor. "You want me to move boxes?" he asked, a ghost of his old pride surfacing. "I want you to learn what it means to work," Emily said, her eyes locking onto his. "You told me I was poor because I worked with my hands. You thought you were better than the people who serve you. If you want to survive, Liam, you need to learn how to be one of them." She dropped the card into his shivering hand. "Ask for the foreman. Tell him Emily sent you. And Liam?" He looked up. "Don't be late. They dock pay for tardiness." Emily turned and walked back to her warm, bulletproof limousine. As the car pulled away, she watched him through the tinted glass. Liam stood in the rain for a long time, staring at the card. Then, slowly, he put it in his pocket and began the long walk to the train station. He had lost a fortune, but for the first time in his life, he had a chance to earn something real. 1 year later, the Cathedral of Valoria was filled with the sound of trumpets. Light streamed through centuries-old stained glass, painting the stone floor in hues of violet and gold. Millions of people watched on screens around the world. The Grand Duke had passed peacefully in his sleep, and the succession was secure. Emily knelt before the altar. The heavy velvet robe weighed on her shoulders, but she carried it with ease. The Archbishop raised the crown of the lion, and placed it gently on her head. "I present to you," the Archbishop's voice boomed, Her Royal Highness, Grand Duchess Emily of Valoria. The crowd erupted. Bells rang out across the valley. In a small, cramped break room in a warehouse in New Jersey, a small TV was playing the broadcast. Liam sat at a plastic table, wearing a neon yellow safety vest. He was eating a sandwich wrapped in foil. His hands were calloused, his fingernails dirty from moving crates all morning. "Hey, Sterling," his supervisor yelled from the doorway. "Break's over. We got a shipment of medical supplies to load." "Coming," Liam said. He looked at the screen one last time. He saw Emily standing on the balcony, waving to the cheering crowds. She looked radiant. She looked powerful. She looked happy. A co-worker sat down next to him, glancing at the TV. "Man, look at her. That is one lucky woman. Bet she never worked a day in her life." Liam paused. He crumbled up his foil wrapper. "Actually," Liam said quietly, standing up, "she worked harder than anyone I ever knew." "You know her?" The co-worker laughed. "No," Liam said, turning off the TV. "I used to know someone who looked like her, but I didn't really know her at all." He walked back out to the warehouse floor to earn his $12 an hour, leaving the Queen to her kingdom, and finally, at long last, accepting his place in the world. And that is the story of how Liam Sterling learned the hard way that you should never judge a book by its cover, especially when that book is a checkbook. Emily proved that true royalty isn't about what you wear or what you drive. It's about how you treat people when you think no one is watching. What do you think? Did Liam deserve the job offer at the end? Or should Emily have left him in the rain? And would you have signed that loan document without reading it? If you enjoyed this story of justice served cold, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We have a crazy tale coming up next week about a lottery winner who hid his ticket in a place you'll never guess. Thanks for watching. And remember, be kind, because you never know who you're really talking to.